Talk check. Ooh. What is up, guys? Welcome back to another banging, hot firing, spit firing, everything with the fire emojis. We got it here today, episode of AFC North Talk. You know it's going to be jam-packed today. All these training camps have happened. Joe Burrow blew it up in Bengals camp. The Browns have everybody on their defense blowing up right now. And, you know, Big Ben blew up his elbow and Earl Thomas blew up that damn locker room, baby. We got it all to talk about this week. Let me start by making sure everybody gets themselves introduced. We're going to start with Ace. Ace, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. As you can see, wearing my Joe Burrow jersey. Can't wait to discuss what's been going on. And luckily, no major injuries to report so far, which I'm knocking on wood here because this is the Bengals, so got to be careful.
Yeah, by the rate everything's been going, it's coming for you because it's been the karma train for everything Minkah Fitzpatrick related that happened last week.
That's true.
Speaking of all the Minkah talk, ladies and gentlemen, the man who represents the Pittsburgh Steelers on this channel, Mr. Tony. Tony, how you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, boys. This is going to be a fun one. Oh, am I muted? Can you hear me?
You're good now.
Okay.
You're good.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm hyped. I'm hyped for tonight's show. Listen, last week was fun for you guys. Tonight it's going to be fun for me. I can't wait.
And then we can't forget the man of the hour, the man who is representing what seems like the most dysfunctional team in the entire division at this point. I mean, they sent a Pro Bowler home, Sonny. I know you're not in high spirits right now, but how are you feeling at this moment?
To be honest, I'm great. It was funny because before this stream started, somebody already said like you go back the first comment in the chat. It's like, I can't wait what Sonny's gonna say. He's gonna say that he's happy Earl Thomas left. He's gonna downplay Earl. We're gonna talk about it, man. But I'm doing good. I'm good.
And you know what? I think we're gonna start by putting you right on the spot. We're gonna talk about the Earl Thomas situation. So, Sonny, let me hear your thoughts about it. We'll go around and have everybody else say their thoughts.
Okay, so the Earl Thomas situation. It's really obviously for the Ravens. It's a big blow on the field. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I mean, Earl Thomas was the best safety in this team. Was he the most important? I would argue Clark right now was, because Clark was relaying the plays, and in the first 4 or 5 weeks, we were struggling to find somebody to call the plays. We tried to give it to Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas couldn't. Tony Jefferson couldn't. The linebackers that we had at the moment, they couldn't either. Chuck Clark took those play calling and he excelled on it. But still, saying that a loss of ET is not big, it is big, right? Now, saying that, I think the Ravens actually did the right thing. Look, I'm gonna throw some shade here to my guy Tony. The Steelers went through a year with AB doing shit like this, right? Mm-hmm. And reports came out. Earl Thomas missed practice because he came late to practice because he had to go wash his car, right? And that was like the day before this happened, right? So I think they did the right thing. Harbaugh said, like, a Pro Bowler doesn't matter. Nobody's above team play. Team was fed up with him, the guys in the locker room. So I actually think saying that the locker room is in flames, I actually think the guys are probably more together right now because of what happened, because they saw this guy was disrupting the locker room and they took him out. Now, that doesn't mean they were not going to miss Earl Thomas on the field. Of course, that doesn't mean on the field the Ravens are better. I think the replacement that we have, the contingency plan we have, is good. Is it better than ET? No way.
Tony, man, you look like you're frothing at the bit.
Yeah, I've been here, right? I think one of the first shows we ever did together was when I was making the case that the Steelers could be better off without AB, just from a culture standpoint in the locker room. So, Sonny, I am certainly sympathetic to that viewpoint in some ways, right? I mean, especially, like you said, when you're talking about a guy who's completely disrespecting the organization, disrespecting the culture, disrespecting the locker room, disrespecting his other players by saying things like, I'm going to miss this meeting because I had to get my car washed, right? I mean, that's not just a slap in the face of the coaches. That's a slap in the face of every other player in that locker room who is going to those meetings on time, right? Who is putting in the time to get better. I understand that Earl Thomas is a great player. He's a fantastic safety, right? I mean, we rated him last week as the best safety room in the AFC North. Yeah, but listen, do we want to go back around and re-rate? Do we want to go back maybe we'll go back around and just like, hey, maybe the Steelers are the best.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. We'll skip it. We'll skip it. Yeah. So no, I'm sympathetic to that point, but for the Ravens overall, right? I think this does hurt them because he was a veteran presence on that. I mean, look, the guy was a good player for them last year at free safety, and it leaves a gigantic hole. Sonny, I watched your video. It was a good video that you did on kind of what are the different ways that they can replace him here. And I thought you were very creative there because I think a lot of people will just kind of pencil in Deshaun Elliott there and just say like, well, it's got to be Deshaun Elliott. But you were talking about maybe moving Jimmy Smith there. I think Harbaugh's brought that up, and I think you made a lot of great points in there about look, yes, Jimmy Smith is a good player as a corner. But we're just talking about putting him at free safety now. I keep harping back on this, right? The lack of practices between now and the lack of preseason games, the lack of preparation that all these teams are going to have between now and the start of the regular season. And I understand Jimmy Smith is a veteran player, but moving him right now from corner to like, hey, you're going to be day one starter at free safety, like he can be a good player there, but not right away, right? I mean, it's going to take some time for him to adjust to that position.
He has been, so let me say something. He has been taking some snaps at free safety because they knew they want to put Jimmy Smith more in the field. But again, it's just I think the contingency plan right now for the Ravens is Elliott and Jimmy rotate. And so Elliott is a free safety from college to now. My problem with Elliott, and if you go to PFF, his grade is actually decent. But in 2 years,
Deshaun Elliott?
Yeah, but in 2 years,
he only played like 20 snaps though. So
in 2 years, he played 4 games total, which is not good. This is the problem. This is what I tell my Ravens fan, like, yo, let's be honest. And there, I got a couple other YouTubers like, he's not injury prone. When you play 4 games in 2 years, all because of injury, that for me, it's injury prone. Might not be the same injury, but it is injury prone. Sorry, Ace.
Yeah. No. Get your thoughts on this, man.
For me, I was kind of shocked. I kind of jumped out there on Twitter, and I honestly wasn't even really being serious. I was just kind of trolling PFT because he had some horrible takes on Joe Burrow not wanting to play for the Bengals and all kind of lies. So when he had tweeted out Earl Thomas is going to get cut, I was like, nah, there's no way that they're going to cut them. And then obviously after that, it follows up with Rappaport, and you hear these reports from Schefter, and it's not looking good. And then he goes and he uploads a play of their practice. And I mean, to me, that was just really kind of the final straw, because you're not only exposing plays and offense and stuff to other teams, you're putting that out in the public. There's no telling what that guy could expose after that. And like you guys said, him using the car wash excuse, that was not good. And he also had a rocky offseason. Like, he had the issues with his wife and stuff like that. Not trying to bring that into it, but I think where his headspace is right now, it's not on football. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. And I think some of that drama may have spilled over into his situation with the Ravens. And the Ravens were just like, at this point, if you're not showing up to team meetings, you're blowing assignments, what's the point of having you on the team, man? We can save ourselves $10 million. So it definitely makes sense. It's just crazy because Earl Thomas is so talented, but this was a situation where he wasn't the same, or it appears that Ravens fans and people are saying now that he wasn't the same Earl Thomas that he was in Seattle and Baltimore. Now, I know Ravens fans, you probably know if that's true. I honestly thought he was the same Earl Thomas, but after that, we've kind of heard differently. Chuck Clark, I think that this puts a lot of pressure on him because Earl Thomas is leaving. He's got to be that leader. Like you said, he got the green dot last year, so maybe he's going to take a step. But we're going to have to see. And the Bengals kind of saw something similar to that when Reggie Nelson, a Pro Bowl safety, ended up leaving, and Sean Williams stepped into that role. And there were some growing pains. There were a lot of miscommunications. There were a lot of arguments in the secondary because, guys were expecting people to be in place. And it sounds like this was the opposite for Earl Thomas. But, that is going to be a growing pain. And it dramatically, to me, kind of shifts the talent in that secondary at the safety position, at least, because at first we easily could all say last week around this time, this was the best secondary in football. I think now we can't say that because Earl Thomas was a big piece of that and a big part of that really put that all together. But I think the Ravens will be fine. I really just am interested to see what they do with that $10 million. if that means that they have that in cap space now, does that mean that they pull off a trade for another position or what happens? So we'll have to see what happens.
So let me
Ace,
address
I
quick
feel like
something. I was just gonna say about the 10 million very quick.
Yeah.
The 10 millions are not available.
yeah.
We currently owe him that. We are trying to cut him because kind of detrimental to the team. This is gonna go to arbitration. If we're getting that money back, I think it will be next year, not this year.
So it won't count for this year.
It won't
Yeah,
count for
because it's
this
going to
year.
go through some kind of weird arbitration thing where he's going to fight for the money and whatnot. Yeah.
Now, I will say, I think if the Ravens win the arbitration, it's because of the video that he posted in IG. That is against
Great video, by the way. Hey, guys, I can clear this up. Let me just show you the all 22 of the play, okay? And I'll show how I love that he said, I tried to calmly explain what happened. And clearly in the video, you see him throw his helmet off in anger, right? And screaming. This is Earl Thomas. I love it. By the way, Ace, you brought up some of the concerns. What's that?
Two things about that all 22 is that, like, one, he did not make the play, and he's the dude who got frustrated. Like, he's standing there watching it happen, and he had the audacity to get mad, records it. And then here's a wild thing about Earl Thomas's Instagram. If you actually scroll down that Instagram, there were multiple plays on that Instagram of this man just putting up like full rave. Like, there's more footage on Earl Thomas's Instagram than there is on the Baltimore Ravens trainingcamp.com. If that's just like, yo, how can you be a 10-year vet and just be like, yeah, this should be cool? Go ahead.
Yeah, if you want to find Bill Belichick's alt Instagram account, just go through Earl Thomas's followers. He's in there somewhere.
To be honest, something happened to him. So like, let's regress. So when he came to Baltimore, I didn't like Earl Thomas' personality, but I don't care, right? If you're gonna ball, that's fine.
Right.
Going back to Ace, he wasn't as good as he was in Seattle, but he was still good. The thing with Seattle, Seattle basically told play cover 3. He doesn't have to think too much. In the Ravens, we were making him blitz. We were making him show blitz and drop off. Blitz from the right, blitz from the left, blitz from the middle, drop 2-man, drop single high, right? So he was doing a lot. And he said it earlier, like, this is way more complicated than Seattle. And, okay, dude, that's fine. You are Pro Bowl and all this. Then in week 3 when we played the Browns, week 4, he got mad because not only we lost to the Browns, he got mad with Brandon Williams because Brandon Williams was a late scratch. He wanted to fight Brandon Williams in the locker room. He said, like, yo, I didn't know you weren't playing.
Yeah.
Williams said, like, dude, I was hurt. I was a game time decision. I was hurt. I couldn't play. So that was a big scuffle. Then obviously winning cures everything, right? Then we didn't lose a game. So it was all fine. I think this year he came with a bad attitude. Again, it could be like Ace said, with what happened in the offseason. I think nobody should pick him up, not necessarily because of talent. I think he needs to clear his mind. Yeah. I think that would have been the best thing for AB too. Like, what's happening to AB now, it should have happened after he left the Steelers. So he can clear his mind and maybe come back and be the Earl Thomas that he was.
Yeah, see, the thing about the Ravens situation, I feel like I'm one of the few people who kind of saw this coming in some way, shape, or form. Because I remember we were even talking last week when we were talking about Earl Thomas. I remember you brought up that, he didn't really know the offense and then he was learning it from Seattle. I was like, that's kind of a weird thing for a 10-year NFL vet to say. Like, like there's a lot of complexities in the Ravens offense. I don't doubt it. But like, when you're a 10-year NFL vet and you got your NFL doctorate, like you should be able to pick up these concepts, like there are guys who get picked up off the street that are expected to pick up the entire offense within like 2-3 weeks of getting signed. So like the fact that all season he just went through with that, and then like these things kept on popping up last year. The quotes, those weren't necessarily like what was going to get him out of Baltimore, but it was just very un-Baltimore Raven of him to do, was these quotes that would come out and just bite him in the face. And then, he had the situation over the summer, which, that's a whole different thing. I don't think that really factored into what happened to him here. But then, you have him, and what I think this ultimately is Earl didn't like what he was asked to do. He might have known the whole offense. He just didn't agree with what he was asked to do and was going to try to force himself into his old role, what he did in Seattle. And he tried to play it the hard way, and he realized, they weren't going to play that game with him, and he acted out. And, because I promise you, You only show up late to meetings because you want to wash your car because you hate your job. Like that's stuff I've done when I had a job where I'm like, yo, they could fire me today. Like, please, I need an excuse to lose this.
Or you
job.
don't have any respect for it, right? You don't have any respect for the higher ups there. Yeah.
I mean, I think about the higher ups at that point. This is like, yo, I hate coming here. I don't like what I'm asked to do. I don't like what I gotta do. I don't like this. I want something else. But you can't necessarily quit because it would be irresponsible. So you gotta get fired. So like, he was with that. Yeah. So it's like, like that kind of stuff where he's like, I'm gonna show up late so I can get my car washed. Like pretty much is, like they have a term for it. My family's from the South. It's called showing your butt. Like this whole thing where he just, he decides he's gonna act out, going throw a temper tantrum. It was obvious that this was never gonna work. He was trying to, and I'm not saying he was playing 4D chess here, like everybody tries to assume. Oh, he's trying to force his way out to go to Dallas. No, he wanted to go to Dallas, or he wanted to be out, so he acted like a child in order for that to happen. And maybe he gets it, maybe he doesn't. But like, I think the one thing he didn't consider is like, yo, you get cut from the Ravens. And Seattle, like, is not really, like, they were kind of eager to get rid of him. That's going to reflect terribly on, I can't say it on here. We try to keep it PG. But yeah, that's going to reflect terribly. That's going to reflect terribly on you as a person that, like, you went to these two great organizations and you can't really stick there, especially Baltimore. You couldn't stick there a year. Like Baltimore is the haven for veteran players in the last 2 years of their career, getting something squeezed out of nowhere. Like, watch Calais Campbell this year. I promise you, he'll be one of the talk of the AFC this year because that's what Baltimore does. They figure out ways to get the most out of you at the end of your career. And the fact that he kind of just poo-pooed that and said, I want to do what I always do. Dallas can pick him up, but like, I don't think Earl Thomas is like Earl Thomas, how he was used in Seattle anymore. And he's going to have to find that out the hard way now because somebody is going to pick him up to do the Earl Thomas thing. And, I don't think he has that lateral agility anymore like he used to. Also,
it's interesting to me.
Remember that he quit running on that play against Nick Chubb. Like that was also a factor. It didn't have the audacity to get in a fight with Brandon Williams, who's 6'5" and like 300 pounds. Earl Thomas like 5'8". Like that's just bad decision making there.
Yeah. It's interesting to me though that this, because we talk about, you compare this to AB, and I think it's an interesting comparison because it happened in similar ways, right? Where all of a sudden the team's just like, yo, we gotta be done with this guy, right? I mean, AB took it to another level, right? But it's similar. But with AB, remember that was after a year in which the Steelers missed the playoffs. It was the worst season they'd had in years. And then he started to lose it. This is a Ravens team that lost 2 games last year, 3 if you count the playoff game. I mean, this was a team that was in ascension. Colin Cowherd's talking about this team going undefeated, right? So it wasn't like Earl's like, oh, I'm on a sinking ship. I got to get him out of here. Maybe, and look, not to say that AB felt like it was a sinking ship, but he certainly felt like he wasn't getting his just due. The Juju was there taking some his stats away, and he felt like, look, I'm not getting the respect here. I don't know where that's coming from with Earl or why he's, if you guys are right here, that he just kind of wanted out of that situation. My question is why, right? And then the other part of this, the second part of this that I want to bring up is any sort of talk in Baltimore, and maybe this was just Lamar Jackson, and I think maybe it was, but that talk of bringing Antonio Brown in, right? If you have a guy like Earl Thomas in your locker room already, where clearly the locker room had already given up on this guy because it took one incident this offseason, like, okay, we're done, we're out, right, gone. All the players want him gone. How is there any talk in that same organization of bringing in a guy like Antonio Brown?
It's Lamar. Lamar and AB are boys because him and Hollywood are boys. And I think Antonio Brown's very smart as he knew Lamar and Hollywood were practicing in Florida. So he went and practiced. And then Lamar was like, yo, you can still play. And right. So then he said to the organization, let's bring this guy. The organization, I think, was very smart. Said to Lamar, like, we had the door open, but look, they brought Des Bryant for a workout. Had they brought AB for a workout? No, because they know. And I think this whole Earl Thomas at that point with all this drama, if anything, it will seal the deal on Antonio Brown's faith, in my opinion. He ain't coming to Baltimore.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I've always said
No,
this,
yeah, there's no way now. There's no way.
and I've always said this. The whole, oh, we can come over here and fix this grown man and help him make better decisions. That's because we're such a good organization thing. That's such an overrated take in sports. And you know, Earl Thomas is somebody you couldn't actually be in a better situation. You are on a 14-2 team, and they're asking you to just like do different things because that fits what you can do now, and you're just like, nah, I'd rather be on a different team and be Earl Thomas. And that's just, you know, you can't change somebody. Like, no. Go ahead, Tony.
He's on a team with the MVP quarterback. He's on a team with the MVP quarterback, and he's on a team with the best cornerback room, like we talked about last week, maybe in the entire NFL. So this is not a guy who has to make up for corners who are blowing coverages or anything like that, right? This is a guy who just, look, you know, Earl, you don't even have to be Earl Thomas in Seattle. Just be a guy, right? Just be good at your job, and we're going to be fine, right? Because we got a great offense. And defensively, by the way, at the end of last year, as I talked about, they were one of the best defenses in the league. So, yeah, it's surprising to me that he acted this way and got his way out of there.
Yeah, so let's kind of switch gears to something that happened positive. And I know, Ace, you've been waiting to talk about this for a little while. Joe Burrow, like the hype was there for Joe Burrow because you know what he did at LSU, but then they got into these scrimmages in Cincinnati, and I have a little bit of a one of those lists of like AFC North beat reporters, and boy, that thing blew up during this scrimmage because apparently Joe Burrow manifested into a football god under the freeway of Cincinnati. So Ace, tell us about that.
I mean, it was kind of one of those situations where it's like, okay, we've got Joe Burrow. He's had this amazing season. Is this guy the real deal? And initially, things kind of started off a little bumpy. AJ Green went down with a hamstring injury. John Ross ended up leaving training camp to help his kid take care of his family. And it was just a rocky situation. Like even the day before that actual scrimmage, like there were reports of him throwing interceptions, defensive linemen getting to him. It just looked bad. Now, the thing that really made me proud was after that practice, he talked about, you know, there's going to be days like this. We got to figure out how to adjust and come back. And the very next day, when he's going against all of our defensive starters. Now, mind you, this guy did not have AJ Green. He did not have John Ross. Like he literally was playing with like Auden Tate, Mike Thomas, like not guys that are going to really like pop off of the radar essentially. And he just killed them. Like 9 for 10 first drive. The one missed pass was a drop touchdown pass or drop touchdown catch by CJ Uzoma. And he's just lighting it up. And it's just been like that ever since then. And today he was lighting it up as well. So we're very excited in Cincinnati. We're really looking forward to it. It's seeming like he's miles better than Andy Dalton. But we have to see this in the real game. But from what I've seen with him, from his ability to not only – and that's what Andy Dalton never did. He can never make guys play to a certain level. And today he was out there making practice squad guys come up and make plays against William Jackson III and some of these other guys. So that's been something that's exciting. But the other part about training camp isn't just Joe Burrow. It's Auden Tate. He threw those 2 touchdowns in that scrimmage to Auden Tate. And Auden Tate, from what I've heard and from what I've looked at on Twitter, apparently is the MVP of Bengals training camp and has been catching everything. And apparently him and Burrow are really on the same page. But between Joe Burrow, between him and then today getting back AJ Green on the field, running full speed. So they just really did that just for precaution, just to keep him safe. And then John Ross comes back today. He looks good. He's, you know, popping off the radar. And then T. Higgins. T. Higgins was another injury that a lot of people didn't know about that kind of went under the radar. He had a hamstring injury as well. So he kind of sat out and was kind of limited in a sense. And today I think he started to gear up and he's starting to make crazy catches. So honestly, it's really looking scary, and Joe Burrow is looking as advertised. And if he is that good, you might want to watch out.
Yeah, I think the way I've been evaluating this is so far, I think the Bengals have been one of the only teams in the AFC North that's really been trending up. The Browns, I think after the Grant Delpit injury, which we're going to get into later, they're kind of trending down. The Steelers are kind of just flatlining right now. There's really nothing one way or the other big time about the Steelers.
There's no reports. Yeah.
There's no reports, nothing coming out of there. And, you know, with Baltimore, everything going on, like they'll be fine ultimately, but like this stuff doesn't happen for a 16-0 team, which is like that's where I was like, okay, it had to deflate a little bit from where it was at. But speaking from a perspective of guys who are going to have to go up against Joe Burrow, are you guys kind of, after hearing some of these reports, hearing what Joe Burrow's doing, making plays, things that Andy Dalton didn't do, making a difference there, are any of you guys kind of worried about that? Him being a young stallion might be a little bit ready faster than people expect.
I mean, certainly, look, for 2020, I think no, just in the short term, right? And I talked about this when we did the schedule preview. I think the Bengals are going to be a team at the end of the year. I think if you look at what happened with Kyler Murray and that Cardinals team last year, how much better they got in the second half of the year. I'm going to forget the guy's name. The YouTube guy actually did a very good video on this the other day. But I think the Bengals can be a team like that, right? Where as the season progresses, Joe Burrow, second half of the year, a team you probably don't want to be playing, especially if you're a playoff team or fighting for that sixth or seventh wild card spot in the AFC, probably a Bengals team you don't want to be playing. Now, what I love about Burrow, and Ace, you hit on this, right? He has that kind of no care attitude, right? Or like to just kind of brush it off. Hey, I had a bad day of practice. Who cares? Next day I'm going out. We're still slinging it. We're still throwing those same passes, right? Yeah, it was intercepted yesterday. Today it's going to be a touchdown, right? That mentality that he had, I'm always drawn to quarterbacks like that. That's why actually I like Baker Mayfield going to the Browns so much back in the day. So I think he's look in that way, like he's a quarterback, right? He's the alpha quarterback that you want. Now whether or not he's like, look, because he went good in a couple scrimmage practices, do I think he's going to like light it up this year? I don't know. It's hard to say. Like we've all had these training camp practices where like a guy lights it up. I remember last year I was going nuts on Locked On Steelers about Duck going 6 for 6 in one of these drills, throwing a touchdown pass. And I mean, look, Duck was a fun player, but Duck's not going to be a future Hall of Famer or anything. I think Joe Burrow much more likely than Duck to be a future Hall of Famer. So we'll see. I think look, the hard part here, is we don't even get preseason games for Burrow, right? It'd be one thing if he did this in a preseason game in an environment where he's going up against a different defense, right, and that kind of thing. Doing this in training camp practice, it's good, right? Look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's a bad thing that he went out there and played well, but I don't think it's you expect Joe Burrow is going to go out there on some days and light it up. This is a very, very talented quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
I heard some people saying everyone looks good in practice, not Andy Dalton.
No.
Right.
I would throw in there, because I think honestly it's the other way, in my opinion, when it comes to how somebody looks like in a preseason game, how somebody looks like in practice. Because in preseason, you're running against a base defense. Like, yeah, you're playing against somebody else, but especially with what training camps are now for a team like the Bengals, who aren't really trying to put anything on live streams or anything like that. They're kind of freed up to run a little bit more of what they're actually going to run, actual NFL defenses where they're trying.
That's a good point for this year in particular.
Yeah, to disguise things. And I think it actually does matter that he's showing this against the ones like Duck doing it against Pittsburgh's 2 and 3 unit. Like, I don't know which unit he was going with last year, but I doubt he was taking reps against the one defense. Like, so,
it's against the twos. It's okay.
Okay, the twos, we know what that secondary is when it comes to depth. We've had that conversation. But
even worse training camp last year. There was no Minkah. So the Spurs are even worse.
So for a second here, let's say that Joe Burrow is ready faster than we expect, Sonny. With that offense, with the pieces that are there, like let's not try to project if he's going to be ready. Let's just assume he is. What do you think the ceiling is for this Bengals team if Joe Burrow is somebody who could play at a Pro Bowl level?
So there's a couple of things. For me, the Bengals, the thing that worries me the most, and I talked with Ace about this a bunch, is that O-line. Because there's something that in practice nobody can do to the quarterback is touch him.
That's a fair point. So
he can be more comfortable, right? All our quarterbacks, right? Big Ben coming out of anybody knows they can beat the guy, and then what they're going to stop the play as the guy got sacked, right? There's none of that in the game, right? Somebody's going to hit him. So if that O-line can hold, well, the talent is there for the Bengals. They have good receivers, and I do believe Burrow will have a good year. If the O-line cannot hold, that's where it's going to be problematic. So I think the Bengals did fairly good on investing. Ace also know I love Jonah Williams last year. My favorite tackle coming out of the draft last year. So I think they're going to get better. Pending injuries, obviously, no wishing injuries to anybody. They should be better in the O-line. Are they good enough to compete against a D-line like the Ravens, like the Steelers? Time will tell. Can Jonah Williams, again, I think he's good, but can he hold a guy like Garrett, right? Because those are the things that are gonna get Burrow starting to throw it quicker, start to throw it to a tighter window, maybe the interceptions. If that O-line plays well, I do think Joe Burrow will be Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and the Bengals could potentially knock in that 7th seed this year. I think that is their ceiling. And if they win or lose the playoff, that really doesn't matter because coming with a rookie quarterback, making it to the playoff year one with no preseason, I think that will be huge. If they win that game against whoever, that's even better. But just making the playoff, that will be huge. Again, I think the Bengals will be. This is how the Bengals team is faith is O-line and how much that defense can help the other team, right? Because that secondary, can they not give up the big plays? Can the linebackers, right? The Baltimore Ravens, they have a young linebacker core. The Bengals also, can they help on the run against the run defense? So those are the big questions for the Bengals. But in the case of Joe Burrow specifically, it's all on that O-line. Can that O-line, it's going to be better than last year, but how much better? Can they be good enough to protect and keep, for the most part, a clean pocket? If they're successful in that, Joe Burrow's going to have a great year.
It's going to be interesting to watch. I think the Bengals are truly one of the more interesting teams to watch in the NFL this year. I think them and the Arizona Cardinals are going to be real treats to see what they're going to be able to do. A lot of offensive pieces, not a great Bengals got a better defense than Arizona does right now. But, I think those are going to be the two young teams that really could jump out and really surprise some folks. Now, speaking of surprises, I got a very unfortunate surprise today. All these injuries going on with the Browns. We knew about Mac Wilson with the hyperextended knee, looking like he's going to miss time. People are throwing the J.C. Treader one because J.C. had a knee scope about a week ago, so he's going to miss most of camp. He'll be back for the start of the season. Greedy Williams left practice early. We just got Nick Chubb and Myles Garrett back. And then Grant Delpit leaves with what looks like, fingers crossed, knock on wood, but some people say it looks like an Achilles injury, which is devastating if true. Let's hope it's a calf injury, but we'll see what happens there. So before I say my piece on it, let's hear from Tony about how he feels about what the Browns are going to do if Grant Delpit is not there anymore. What are the options?
This sucks. I mean, this just sucks. I was we talked about this last week, how high I was on Grant Delpit. I was so excited to watch him play. I was talking about Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers. We did our thing earlier today. He was saying you're like a low-key Browns fan, and I kind of am. I like a lot of the players that they have. Right, I was very high on Baker. I was very high on Grant Delpit. Love Greedy Williams. So when I saw this come through today, look, I know I'm a Steelers fan. I'm supposed to hate the Browns, but this just sucks. This just sucks. He was such a good player in college. And what he could have brought to that defense, right? The playmaking ability at the safety position, especially at the free safety position, not just this year, but over time. And these Achilles injuries, man, they take a long time to come back from. So I don't know, Quincy, what are the answers for them at free safety? Can they, I know they have Carl Joseph and I'm going to forget the guy from Minnesota there, right? But both of those guys are going to play in the box. Andrew Sadejo, yeah. But both of those guys, I believe, are in the box safeties, if I'm not mistaken. So if they're going to go with free safety, is he? Sendejo's more free? Okay. So maybe they could be okay because he is a veteran. But yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know what their options are. It's a huge hole for them. I think they were expecting Grant to come in and start. And so, without that, they either go on, they either go on the open market, much like Baltimore. And I guess maybe Earl Thomas comes to Cleveland. I don't know. I actually don't know what they do.
Yeah, see, I think part of Earl Thomas's issues in Baltimore were his unhappiness with the scheme. And if he comes to Cleveland, he ain't going to be that scheme does not allow for somebody to just run around like the road runner likes to do. So trust me, he don't want to come here, and we probably don't need him to come here.
Can you imagine him, Baker, OBJ, like Earl? Because Earl, for some reason, thinks he's the Hulk and he can fight anybody. Can you just imagine? He'd be like this kid, and then it's the last thing Cleveland needs. Let's be honest. Doesn't matter. Again, it goes back talent-wise. Earl, most teams can use him, right? Let's be honest. Everybody in the AFC North can take Earl's talents without the BS, and he will be a starting safety. Even the Steelers, they can put him next to Minkah, right? but nobody wants the character issues right now.
Yeah, I mean, like with Earl, I think if you're gonna have him be happy, I think he's a guy you definitely need to have be happy. And by the way, I don't know where he's been saying that all chat, and I'm like, I've never said that direct comparison, but like,
I'll say it.
Grant Delpit,
Chrissy, I'll say it.
better
Grant Delpit
player
went
at
up.
LSU than Patrick Queen. Like nobody who watched LSU last year is going to say anything other than that, and nobody who watched in the last 2 years, especially, has been saying anything other than that. But okay, still, Grant Delpit being injured doesn't change that. That happened already. But anyways, where was I going? I got completely thrown off track. But
I think you started with some Earl Thomas.
Earl Thomas, yeah. So Earl Thomas coming to Cleveland, like I think he has to be happy with what his scheme is going to be. I don't think he's going to be happy with what Cleveland's going to actually do, which is probably kind of fill in there and have some more linebacker duties because that's what they were hoping for Grant Delpit to do. Let's be honest, Grant Delpit's 6'2". He's a much bigger player. You can have more versatile. He could be more of a versatile hybrid in that way. Earl Thomas ain't that. Like Earl Thomas was never that. That's why you had Cam Chancellor opposite of him to do those kind of things. So I don't think Earl's going to make a lot of sense here. I think what is going to make a lot of sense is that you're probably going to have to bring somebody who's more traditionally a strong safety, but somebody who has a lot of safety experience. I've thrown out Eric Reed because I think he can fill in and do a lot of the things that they need him to do here, while you can have Sadejo and Sheldrick Redwine split the duties at a true kind of free safety position because they won't completely crap the boat there, and then you can have somebody bring in some versatility. The thing with the Browns that I think is positive about this injury, if you can say anything is positive about it, is that at least it happened in the secondary. And if there's one spot on this defense that can actually take a hit to a major piece, it's this secondary. This secondary is deep. You have guys like Terrence Mitchell who can step in for Greedy Williams. I don't think you really miss much or lose much of a step there. You have Kevin Johnson, who's a big versatile corner. He plays the slot, so he frees up a lot of other guys there. You're giving guys like MJ Stewart a chance, a former second-round pick from Tampa Bay, who's had a pretty decent camp so far, but we'll see what that looks like when it comes to game time. So the secondary, I think, is deep enough to withstand this without it being completely devastating. The injury, I think, is going to be devastating, and the two players we know the Browns aren't going to have for at least a portion of the season, and in the other case, for the whole season, is the injury to Andrew Billings, not the injury to Andrew Billings, the opt-out of Andrew Billings, and, Mac Wilson not being there. That's where the Browns were hurting. Linebacker, inside defensive line. The secondary, while Grant Delpit has a ton of potential, he was ultimately splitting, reps with the ones and the twos in training camp up to this point anyways, and it seemed like that was what he was going to do. Sometimes they would throw him inside at the slot, but they have Kevin Johnson that they could do that with. And even Terrence Mitchell, they can move people around and have Denzel Ward play the slot if they really wanted to have Greedy and Terrence Mitchell on the edges. So they have a lot of versatility and a lot of flexibility there. So I don't think this is a death sentence to the defense. As long as the secondary can be decent, Myles Garrett can really erase a lot of things there if he has a great year. But now we're kind of like I was talking to Tony earlier. I was like, hey, Myles Garrett can't have a 13.5 sack season. He has to have like 16 sacks this year in order for this Browns defense to be good. And now it's like, hey, Myles, you got to get 20 because everybody's getting injured around you. You got to pick it up. And I'm worrying about the back of Myles Garrett. Can we get a chiropractor into training camp because we're asking him to carry too much? And good God, put Myles Garrett in bubble wrap. Just don't risk it. Just have him lift weights in the corner gently on the Smith machine. No free weights. He's not getting hurt. We can't have that because if Myles Garrett goes down, okay, then it's going to have to change. Browns going to have to put up 45 every game to win because that's devastating. But Grant Delpit is disappointing. I really want to see him play. I hope it's not Achilles because that can be a complete career game changer for a guy like Grant Delpit. So I'm crossing my fingers just for his sake that it's not. But it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust. But I think an adjustment is possible for this unit. Ace, do you have any thoughts on this?
So from the Bengals guy, and I know all about injuries. We know all about those injuries, especially when it comes to first round draft picks, because we just literally couldn't get any of our first round draft picks on the field for the past 3 years because they all got hurt. But when I look at this, I think in a vacuum, most people are like, oh my God, the Browns are having all of these injuries. Grant Delpit goes down. And the Grant Delpit injury is huge, right? I'm not going to try to downplay that. Obviously, if it's possibly an Achilles injury, that is something that is extreme. But the good thing is, and I'm just trying to be optimistic on this side, it was a second-round pick that you paid for him. So it's not like you paid a first-round draft pick guy that went down. Now, he is a first-round talent, but it's not going to be a situation like the Bengals this year with Trey Waynes, where you just lost a whole bunch of money out on the guy because of that. But when I look at it all together, yes, Greedy Williams left with an injury. Doesn't seem like it's going to be anything. And from what there's all injuries over all training camps, right? Like there's guys from the Bengals that are sitting out right now that are going to be there week one. I think as long as these guys, if we're talking about Carl Joseph or we're talking about Greedy Williams being there week one, as long as Denzel Ward doesn't go down with the injury, I think the Browns will at least be decent and decent in that secondary. So if we can get those guys out there, they should be fine. Make it work with Andrew and Sheldrick Redwine. Just see what they can do back there. But I think you guys will still be in decent shape if those guys are there. Now, if we get to week one and we're talking about Carl Joseph's out, Greedy Williams is out, and Delpit's out, and it's just, Denzel Ward by itself, then you might have an issue. But I think the Browns right now, they're just going through what all people in this situation are going through. In a year with COVID, guys weren't able to work out. There's going to be a lot of injuries, and it's going to hit several teams. And I'm hoping that it's not the Bengals, but I still think even though the Browns have had a little bit of bad luck in that area, I think by the time 3 weeks from now, they should be good to go.
Well, let's hope so. I wanted to give Tony here a couple of minutes to do his victory lap because he took a beating last week, let's be honest. So, Tony, get whatever it is off your chest about how you feel about the secondary and how things rank. You can re-rank all the secondaries right now for everybody's pleasure. I'll give you that. Go ahead, Tony.
Well, just, look, it turns out, I know you guys last week were talking about, if anything happens to Minkah, they're the worst secondary room in the division. It turns out that the Ravens were a thrown punch away from the worst safety room in the division. So, so there's that. I would put the Steelers 1. I would put, the poor Browns. I would the Bengals 2. I actually probably would put the Ravens 3, just because, man, I like. Although, no, hold on, no. I don't take safeties into account. So the fact that Grant Delpit got injured doesn't matter to me at all. So Browns 3, Ravens 4. And I think, that's where we are. That's where we are at the safety room. Look, anytime. Look, and here's the can I just okay? Can we just have? Let's just have a little lesson here. This is a lesson. Anytime you have a position where they're very top heavy, where you have one of the best players, and I'm not going to say Minkah is one of the best players or the best safety in the league. I'll say he's one of the best too, like he got voted all pro. And I'll say this: anytime you have a position like that, where you have one of the best players in the league at your position, if he gets hurt, it's going to be a significantly worse position. Just like
Tony, all I want to know is, tell me how's Big Ben doing? That's what I want to know.
We're going to talk about Big Ben. We're going to talk about Big Ben in a second. We're going to talk. I'm going to because the Big Ben segment here is going to be silly. I don't want to talk about it. I really don't want to talk about it. Quincy, you know what I'm talking about.
Let's
I don't want to
talk about Big Ben. I've heard reports that his elbow surgery and his elbow recovery has resulted in him having what has been deemed a weird throwing motion. That's not good for a 38-year-old quarterback trying to recover. But Tony, tell everybody here why you're not worried about it, and then we'll just,
listen, I can't wait for this segment. I literally, listen. You know what's so funny about Steelers training camp, right? Is basically, it's like basically Fort Knox, right? I mean, they're letting 4 media members in per day. They have them rotate, so the same writer can't even write up a practice report on it. Yeah, they rotate the media guys in. It's like the same guy literally cannot write back-to-back practice reports because he's not there. You can't write about anything about this team that isn't on the practice report. And the way the practice report is put together is like the writers, I guess, I actually don't know the full thing, so I'm kind of going to speak out of my ass here, but like I've heard this like third hand is like they'll write up basically the main things that happen, right? The main talking points of the practice, and then Steelers PR will edit it, right? For like, hey, don't give this away, don't give that away, don't give this away.
That's
and then
terrible.
That's what I've heard anyway. So, again,
what are they hiding? What are they?
Listen, we're bringing out. Listen,
great question.
We're going full Wildcat this year. What you guys don't know, the Steelers are going to go.
What did you think? What did you think? The easiest way.
Wildcat. They can't let anybody know this. No, I think so. What's interesting? Okay, so let's talk. We'll talk for a second about Minkah because we did start on the safety, and he has been a story in Pittsburgh today. He talked, and then the secondary coach talked and Tomlin talked. So there's of course been all these reports all off season of like, are the Steelers going to move Minkah around this year? Right? We talked about this last week. Should they move him around? Okay, because he was so good as a free safety last year. I mean, he was fantastic. But and you talked about this last week, right? This is a guy who coming out of college was talked about. You can move him all around. He's a Swiss Army knife. You can put him anywhere. And so there's been talk in Pittsburgh that they want to move him around a little more. And I think every Steelers fan has been going like, that sounds good, but man, that seems silly because who's going to play free safety if it's not Minkah, right? Minkah could probably play some slot, and it might be interesting to play him there a little bit because it keeps offenses thinking about where he's going to be. But then who plays free? It's not going to be Terrell Edmunds, okay? And I know there's hype about Curtis Riley right now, but Curtis Riley is not Minkah. And then this is a player in Minkah Fitzpatrick who was so good in the second half of last year. He was targeted just 4 times. So Tom Bradley, the secondary coach, came out today and he was asked about it, and he basically laughed. He said, "No, we're playing Minkah at free safety today. We're playing Minkah all day at free safety. We he was so good last year. We're not going to move him around." Tomlin was asked about it too. He kind of laughed it off and said, "We're not going to give our hand away this early." But you have to imagine, like, the Steelers understand where they were last year. The only reason to move Minkah around, hold on one second. The only reason to move Minkah around would be that you want to have more. You want to bring back the interceptions you got mid-season because no one's throwing his way anymore. But the risk reward there is like you go back to being the team you were in those first couple weeks where you don't have a deep third, and then you become a sieve again in the deep passing game.
So Tony, we asked you about Big Ben, and you talk about Minkah. I
don't want to talk about Ben because this is not good. Again, this is not going to be a productive conversation.
I know how to get Tony to talk about Ben Roethlisberger. Sure. I'm going to talk about Ben Roethlisberger. Okay, go. Yeah, let's do it. Let's start the conversation with everybody else, and then we'll let Tony jump in. But let's just imagine a world, a very, I think 60% chance of happening world where, 38-year-old quarterback coming up an elbow surgery who has a weird throwing motion again and might fatigue late in games, might not be the guy that he was 2 years ago. Let's imagine that guy stinks this year.
Of course.
What's next for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ace? What do you think?
They got to cut him. They cut him. I think they cut him.
Are you saying that they're going to cut Big Ben? I think they have to. I think they have to, but it's going to be a drama-filled. It's going to be Eli Manning all over again. And me and Tony, for those who don't know, we live in the Orlando area. There happens to be a high concentration of people from New York here. And I just remember that entire season. A lot of my coworkers, they were like, "Oh, you can't cut Eli." And I'm like, Eli just threw like 5 picks the other day. Like, what Eli are you like watching? And when you get into those situations, being that these guys have done so much for them, you talk about Big Ben winning them a Super Bowl, you talk about the Eli Mannings of the world getting them 2 Super Bowls. It's hard to let go, and it's hard for that to be a situation where it ends on good terms. And I think especially with Big Ben, we've already seen him kind of get riled up, like, I'm retiring, and Mason Rudolph, I'm not helping you take over my position. Like, we've already seen that there's potentially drama there. And I think that you just really rip the Band-Aid off if you're like, we're cutting Ben Roethlisberger. But it has to happen. It has to happen. I don't want it to happen. I'm going to love every little part of the end of Ben and how it goes. Because it's going to put you guys in a difficult situation. But if he comes back and he is not that guy, you got to move on. I mean, this is a division now with 3 Heisman winning quarterbacks. They're all young. You got to move on. But if he is still Ben, you have to take that risk. But that is a lot of money to be given that guy. And especially if he isn't going to be playing at a high level anymore. But we have to see it play out. And I'm here for that. I'm here for that. I'm hoping that it's just. I'm hoping that it's a disaster.
I want Eli Manning 2.0. Look, the thing is, this year doesn't matter how bad he plays, they can cut it. That's 44.5 dead money right on the spot. They can't cut it. Even if they decide to put it at post June 1st, so they will split this year, but then next year is 44.25.
Mm-hmm.
Look,
they're not going to cut him this year.
Yeah. So the reality is, even though right now I saw the video of the throw motion, it was elbow attached to the rib, and then he just like trying to push it with
That's not true.
He's just like, Like
Uh,
right now, long pass for him is 5 yards deep.
I just don't understand. I understand not showing any plays or anything, but why not just put this all to rest? Because ESPN and all these people, they're going to be talking about it, right? Why not just show it from an angle where you can't see the formation or anything?
No, I mean they've shown Ben. Yeah, you can see Ben throw it. Yeah, you can see Ben throwing. He looks fine. Look, the funny thing about the article, right? The funny thing about the article that Kaboli wrote is that he says he starts it by saying like, look, I have to be honest with this. I've been watching Ben Roethlisberger for the last, whatever it's been, 15 years that he's been on the team, and his throwing motion looks different this year. He's not following through the same way he used to. Then he goes on to say, look, nothing else. Literally, you would if you had never watched Ben Roethlisberger before, you would never know that there's anything wrong. Because there's not a change in velocity, there's not a change in accuracy. In fact, 2 days later, Kaboli comes back to write about what a great day Ben had at Wednesday practice, about how, look, and he writes in like insane hyperbole here. I read this on Quincy's show. I still have it, so I'll read it again. He said, quote, wherever Roethlisberger wanted to throw the ball Wednesday, he threw it. It was like he was playing a game of darts and hit the middle of the bullseye every time. He was that accurate. He follows that up with this amazing line. We aren't talking about catchable balls here. We're talking about pinpoint accurate throws every time. Now, look, am I going to sit here and say Ben Roethlisberger's elbow surgery made him the most accurate quarterback in the league all of a sudden? Of course not, right? But also, I don't think the one concern you have about the throwing motion, and Kaboli brings this up, is, and Quincy, you brought this up too, right? The fatigue aspect of it. If you're not following through, does that put more pressure on your arm as games go on? If Ben Roethlisberger is in a game this year where he has to throw the ball 35, 40, 45 times, then do you start to see, or as the season wears on, do we start to see some fatigue in the arm? But one thing that's been interesting about this camp is that usually the Steelers go on a schedule with Ben where it's full day, half day, day off, right? That's just kind of the veteran way that they handle him right now. They haven't been doing that so far. In fact, I think he had his first day off of camp 2 days ago. So that's been interesting to watch. They haven't put him on a pitch count just yet. I think, and what's also very interesting about him is, and I've talked about this before, is I was very hopeful that he would understand you got to stop this obsession with veteran guys and start to work in some of the younger guys earlier on. Ben would do this thing in camp where he wouldn't let the rookies into his line, right? They'd have to earn it throughout camp, throughout preseason. And then they would work themselves.
I thought he's building chemistry with what is
Claypool.
the guy? No, with Edelman. The Edelman.
Yeah, Switzer. Edelman. Don't get me started on Switzer. Sonny, he's ripped this year. Looks fantastic. He may be Julian Edelman this year.
On this very program, Tony went on like an epic anti-Ryan Switzer rant, but he's jacked out. It's the Marquise Brown.
No. What's funny about Switzer is he reads the comments. I mean, he very clearly reads the comments, and I'm joking about that. He talked about this in his press conference, and I heard all the hate all offseason. And Steeler fans had a lot of fun with him last year, and it's mostly because of that stupid quote he said that Ben sent him. Why can't this be us about Edelman and Brady? But no, I mean, Switzer clearly reads the comments, and he spent every day working out, reading those comments. So what else to talk about at camp? So, okay, that's the Ben stuff, right? His throwing motion looks weird, but you wouldn't know it from the actual accuracy. And again, and all this is like, it's all Fort Knox stuff. Oh, the one other thing I wanted to bring up was Eric. Yeah.
We talk a lot about Ben returning to his 2018 form. I think we're going to see a return of 2016 wild card form of Ben Roethlisberger, who did get the ball downfield. Yeah, remember that was the game where he hurt his arm, came in late with one arm, and then beat the Bengals. Ace, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm fine with that. They won that game. Yeah, hey, listen, I'm into that.
Jeremy Hill won that game for the Steelers.
Brian Tannehill ran into that tunnel. Oh, my goodness.
And then Jeremy Hill fumbled, which Jeremy Hill set a record, by the way. He signed with the Raiders and was cut the same day. Not shocked at all. And Jeremy Hill was a guy. This is the type of guy that Jeremy Hill is. So he does that. Bengals fans give him a bad rap about that. They still talk about that fumble to this day. But the craziest thing about Jeremy Hill is he goes to the Patriots, doesn't even play it down. I think he gets hurt in the beginning of the season. And then when the Patriots win the Super Bowl, he never played throughout that whole season. He's bragging on Twitter oh yeah, haters, you didn't do anything. You were basically a water boy for the Patriots the entire season. Then he spent last year out of the NFL, and then got a workout and thought he was going to the Raiders, and apparently not. John Gruden sent him right back home.
They did sign him for like a day. Maybe an afternoon. Maybe an afternoon. I don't know if for 24
not
hours.
Even 24 hours. Oh God!
Ain't that somebody who should have been somebody who was?
Oh God! Don't remind me about Jeremy Hill. No.
Another LSU running back that didn't pay out, right?
And they not saying that Pac-Man and Tez
trying to talk bad about Clyde Edwards-Helaire
meltdown, but like no one talks about Jeremy Hill fumbling like right after that. Like no one literally talks about
great play by
Jeremy Hill.
By the way, it was a bad fumble. It was not even like a excusable fumble. It was like a run down the middle, and he just
Marvin Lewis. Hey, it's raining. It's raining. Jeremy Hill has had fumble problems this year. Let's give the ball to Jeremy Hill. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I knew it was over when I saw Big Ben for the first time that day, and I was like, I've been here before. I've seen this happen. I've read this book. I don't want anything to do with it. So as much as we joke on here about Ben and all of his T-Rex throwing motions and how he's old and injured and not going to be any good, we still have a healthy respect for Ben Roethlisberger. That being said, Tony, what else is going on down there? I know you want to wrap up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will say, I know I'm like the homer on this show, but I will say some negative things about Ben real quick, or like, so this is just my biggest concern about Ben this year, and that is the interceptions that he throws. And I think that to me is going to be a concern this season. Now, it's really interesting because Kaboli brings this up in that same article. He talks about the throwing motion. He talks about the fact that like 2-3 years ago, Ben started the ball high all of a sudden. Right, just like all of a sudden, some of Ben's throws were just too high, and he had accuracy issues over the top, and it led to, of course, anytime you're throwing over the receiver, you're leaving yourself wide open to bad interceptions. Now, Kaboli makes the case that the elbow could have been a part of that because they talked about Ben having, elbow pain for 2 years or whatever, right? So maybe the elbow pain goes away and he stops overthrowing. But also with Ben, I've just found him in the last couple of years to be making dumber and dumber decisions over time, right? And I think this is one thing that when we watched Ben early in his career, you kind of felt like he had a little Brett Favre in him where he's like, he's the gunslinger out there. He wants to make the tight throws. And as your career goes on, right, those windows get tighter and tighter. And all of a sudden, those go from being spectacular plays to being really dumb interceptions. And this is a guy who's had double-digit interceptions, I believe, 4 years in a row now. That's my biggest concern with Ben this year. And I don't think it has anything to do with his arm strength. And obviously, if his arm is shot, well, that's not going to help anything. But no, I just think I hope Ben Roethlisberger has taken some time, and he's talked about this, like, I see the field differently now because I sat on a sideline the whole year. Like, I don't know what that means, but I just, the hope for Steelers fans has to be that he's just going to come in and just be smarter, right? This is a guy who basically ran the offense 2 years ago and wanted to throw the ball and did throw the ball almost 700 times. If they do that again, and he's, this is a guy who's going to put up 15, 16 interceptions. Well, that's going to be a problem for this offense, right? So, they can't do that again. So that's my concern with Big Ben going into this year. Other things I can't. Eric. Yeah, go ahead.
My bad, Tony. Yeah, I think also one thing that should be considered. We joke about Ben's weight a lot, but he's lost weight. He's probably what they said the lightest he's ever been. Well, yeah, I mean, either whether that's true or not, we'll see. But I think even if he is a little bit lighter, that does bring up an interesting question to me, and that is he going to be able to really hold up if he's carrying less weight, which means usually that means you're easier to get injured. I wonder if that was a smart move as far as durability goes with him. I understand why he would do it because you're just coming off injury, you're going to be rusty, so you want to be lighter. But this Steelers, he's always gotten hit under the Steelers offense. That's never been something that doesn't happen with him. And with him being able to take hits with the beef that's in this division, I wonder if that's going to be something where it's going to be a question if he can hold up for 16 games.
It's an interesting point, but look, here's what I'll say about the injury concerns with Ben, right? Because this is a guy who's only missed one game due to injury before the elbow surgery, of course, but one game due to injury, in those 3 years prior. Or you'd have to go back to that injury he had against the Rams, where he looked like he tore his ACL in that game. Where he really missed significant time. I think he missed 4 games that year. Actually, Quincy, you'll remember that year because remember the year where Landry Jones was playing against the Browns, and then the Browns hurt Landry Jones, so Ben was like, "Screw it, I'll come in and play that game." That was that year. But no, Ben. Ben. Look, every year. What's that?
Was that the year with Mike Vick?
Yes, that was the year with Mike Vick.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that was the Mike Vick year.
We did have a weird number 2 Mike Vick year. Yeah, I remember that.
That's right. That's right. No, I mean, look, Ben's weight always gets played up, right? Like we played it up in the offseason, and like the guy did look fat. I mean, he just did, right? Now, some people are like, well, it's just because he had a beard or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I saw him on the sideline too, right? Yeah, I know an overweight guy when I see him. He was pretty overweight, but he's back in shape. And we hear this, and it's so stupid because we hear this every single camp about like how many Ravens or Browns or Bengals do we hear about every year who's like, I'm in the best shape of my life. I've been working so hard this offseason. I'm working on X, Y, and Z, right? And of course, Ben says the exact same thing. I remember the one year where he's like, I got a nutritionist this year, and I've been working. It's like, okay, stop. No one cares, right? No one cares. You came in good shape. Great. You're a professional athlete. You're supposed to show up in good shape, right?
It's like he's like, yo, I got a nutritionist this year.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. You're a 10-year vet.
What exactly? It's like, hello, you are a professional athlete. Like, okay, you got one now? Like, what are you doing? Yeah, I always find that stuff silly. I really do. I always find that kind of talk. I'm in the best shape of my life. Okay, you are a professional athlete. Every year you should be in the best. You should be in the best possible shape. That is what you are paid to do. So that stuff's always silly to me. So yeah, Ben's lighter this year. I don't know if that's going to have a real impact on him as a player. But yeah, he said, I feel better than I have in 14 years. So he's a rookie. Ben's coming back 15-1, baby.
By the way, every quarterback over the age of 35, every time they come back from camp, I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. Tom Brady been in the best shape of his life for like 7 years.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Didn't they say that he's throwing better now? Didn't Chris Godwin? Didn't Gronk say like he's at a whole other level now? I'm like,
they told me he throw the ball deeper. They were like, yeah, he's gotten more arm strength. We can't wait to use that. How did that work out? You know what I mean? Yeah, Baker's in the best shape of his life too. He's definitely going to throw 10 interceptions in the very least. So the whole best shape in his life, or this wide receiver looks jacked, or this guy came back looking. It usually never matters. And
it doesn't matter.
Once they get in the pads, you're like, oh, he looks the same. He looks pretty normal. Like you're like squinting at the screen to try to see. Oh, let's see if Marquise Brown got more muscle definition. Oh,
I think it's really going to be hard to judge this Ben Roethlisberger situation because number one, he's coming back from an injury, so you can't expect him to just explode. I think the only time we've seen that is Peyton Manning on the Broncos, but generally, like that doesn't happen. That's not the norm. The other thing is the offense was horrible last year. The offensive coordinator, the system period was pretty bad. So even if he comes back and it's let's just say for instance, it's the same system. Like Ben Roethlisberger isn't going to look amazing in that system because the system wasn't good to begin with. So this is going to be like a hard situation to really judge. I don't think we're going to really know until possibly week 10 where he stands. And there's going to be a lot of doubters and stuff like that. The media is going to like to play this stuff up. But I honestly and truly don't think we're really going to know until about week 10.
I agree. I completely agree with that. And what's interesting about that is like, you talk about the system was bad last year. The system that Mason Rudolph and Duck ran was completely different. And from a personnel wise, the wide receiver wise, remember, do you guys remember, you want to talk about Dante Moncrief real quick? Because remember Dante Moncrief? Yeah. He was like
him again.
He was the boy. Yeah, he was my boy last year. And he was exactly. He was the number 2 receiver. Look, here are the starting 3 receivers, week 1 and 2 for the Steelers last year. Juju, Dante Moncrief, Ryan Switzer, right? Those were the top 3. Those were Ben's guys. Like I said, Ben loves his veteran guys. So James Washington wasn't getting significant time. Deontay Johnson was an afterthought in those first couple Ben games. Then when Mason Rudolph came in, they're like, all right, we don't have to put Ben's boys out there anymore. We can just like put our best receivers out there. And that's when you started to see James Washington get more reps. That's when you started to see Deontay Johnson get more reps. I think that is a big, big part of early in this season. Is it, I want to talk about Eric Ebron real quick because a lot of writers have been saying like Ebron's had a decent camp in the passing game and whatnot. Ebron fits what we talked about with Dante Moncrief last year, right? A veteran guy who Ben's going to cling to and say like, this is my guy. Now, Ebron has had a very up and down career throughout his whole career, right? And the guy went from having a fantastic year 2 years ago to having a terrible year last year. And everyone's thinking like, well, with Ben, they can resurrect his career. Maybe, but the Steelers have proven guys in Deontay Johnson, and I'm going to even say James Washington, but certainly Juju Smith-Schuster, right? I mean, like Ben and Juju went off a couple of years back. So can Ben? I want to see Ben get on the same page with those guys, and like the Eric Ebron, can they bring him back? That would be a nice addition to the offense. But I'm already expecting guys like Juju to bounce back into form, for Deontay Johnson to have a breakout year, and even James Washington to continue to prove that he can be a deep threat and a big combat catch guy.
No, I agree. Sorry, Tony. There was a bit of some groundbreaking, earth-shattering news that just happened. Quincy, do you want to do the honors, my friend?
I'm trying to see if I can confirm it with another source.
Adam Schefter tweeted it. He says that Adam Schefter has tweeted the Browns fear that second-round draft pick safety Grant Delpit tore his Achilles during today's practice. Per source, Delpit was slated to start at free safety.
Damn.
I mean, it's not confirmed.
Yeah.
They fear it.
Yeah.
That's what we've thought. It looks like it. I hope it's not, but hopefully we wake up to good news. But it's a rough situation. Like, especially like, just put the Browns aside. A guy who's 22 years old, as athletic as he is, getting an Achilles injury. That's just kind of depressing at the end of the day, if that's true.
Yeah. Well, just
that's a year or two rehab.
Some hope. It happened to Leon Hall, if I'm not mistaken, for the Bengals twice, and he was able to bounce back from it. We've seen Richard Sherman bounce back from it, so hopefully he can reach out to those guys, figure out what they did, and come back stronger. But I will say for Leon Hall, I mean, Leon Hall was never one of the fastest guys, but you could tell like some of his speed was taken away from him because of the injury. But it is an injury at least that he can come back from. It's not like, well, I'm not going to say micro knee fracture surgery, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a rough start to an NFL career that seemed to be pretty promising. But
definitely.
Real quick before we wrap up, I want to give everybody a chance to give their hot take of the week on this channel, because we know training camp is silly season. People are making assumptions about some of the goofiest grounds at this time of the year. So why not? And let's go to the king of hot takes on this show. Tony, tell us that Big Ben's going to throw for 6,000 yards this year.
No, I want to talk about Earl Thomas real quick, because everybody's talking about Earl Thomas, and is he going to go to Dallas? Is he going to go here? Is he going to go there? Here's the thing about Earl, right? There is a plus side to this for Earl. If he doesn't get picked up by anybody, it's completely fine, because what we found out this offseason, that Earl's a family man. Him and his family are very close. So if anything, him and his brother can spend a bunch of time together this season. And that'll be fun for him.
Oh no! I mean,
he went there
home to the Dallas Cowboys.
He went there, huh?
Oh, he's been waiting to do that all
year. He asked for a hot take.
Earl's going to spend some family time with his brother, and we all know how gross
they're really close.
is.
Hey, aren't they really close? I bet they're pretty close.
I heard they practically share a bed.
I'm going to say, so my hot take is that Joseph Burrow, I looked at the Vegas over-under. They said over or under 20 passing touchdowns for Joe Burrow. I'm going to take the over, and I'm going to say that Joe Burrow is going to shock the league, and he's going to be the story of the NFL next season, because unlike other rookies, with there being some teams that won't, have any crowds and stuff like that, I think that that's going to help him a lot this year. He's not going to have to go into situations on the road where he's going up against a crowd and stuff like that. So I think, as we've kind of seen with the NBA bubble, some of these guys that nobody really talks about, they're able to play better because they don't have the crowd playing to that. So I think that Joe Burrow is going to have over 20 touchdowns, and he's going to lead the Bengals to the playoffs. I said it. Let's do it.
Ooh.
Book it. Let's do it.
Let me hear your hot take.
I think there's going to be two young players of the Ravens that are going to kill it. Hollywood Brown will have the most yards in the AFC North.
Stop.
Not take. What are we talking about? Take. That's heat. That's heat.
That is heat.
Look at the second one.
My computer? Are you trying to burn my computer?
Look. This is for Tony.
Yeah. All right.
At the end of the year, Joker will be a better safety than Minkah Fitzpatrick.
We asked for some hot takes. We got some delusional takes, but they were hot, I guess.
That's not a hot take. That's a hot chip challenge take. That is not just a hot take. Okay.
More than Odell, Jarvis, more than Juju, more than
AJ Green.
AJ.
Let's remember, how many yards did Hollywood Brown have last year?
576, I think.
500.
Even so, you're saying that even if you guys signed Des Bryant, he's still gonna do that.
Come on, are we talking about hot takes?
Hey, we gonna challenge the hot take. I mean, it's a hot take.
But I like my second one better. I do believe in the second one. The Joker will be better than Minkah at the end of the year.
That's the one he wants to go with.
Okay. Listen, I'll tell you, Hollywood has a better chance. Hollywood has a better chance of having the most yards in the NFL. Okay, forget the AFC North. Hollywood has a better chance of leading the NFL in receiving yards than Deshaun Elliott has any chance of being in the same league as Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Minkah will come back to what he was in Miami this year.
A B+ player.
Was he B+ in Miami? Because last week you guys were like he's an F- player.
No. He's just a B+ player that got looked to be like an A+ player. I mean, can Deshaun Elliott be B+? I guess that's the question.
Two game-winning touchdowns on defense. Yeah, B+.
You guys blew me away with the hot takes of the week here. Sonny,
yeah, we need yours.
Didn't expect that. I'm going to say here, and I think this is honestly a reasonable take, that Myles Garrett will be the first player in a long time to finish in the top 3 of MVP voting from the defensive side of the football.
Wow.
Ooh, defensive player of the year. Okay.
Oh,
that would take a lot of sacks. You're talking about like 20 to get there.
He's going to come close to Michael Strahan's record. And that's just going to keep the Browns defense above float if all these injuries start happening. Now, knock on wood, Myles can get injured tomorrow, and then I'm done. But yes, I'm basing this off of one training camp practice that Myles Garrett has had so far throughout camp and all of his previous work, that Myles Garrett will be the first defensive player in a long time to finish, not just be in the conversation, finish top 3 with some votes for MVP. I said it. MVP. He's the only guy on the Browns I think even sniff it.
Yo. EMRI report just a minute ago. Rookie safety Grant Delpit has suffered a torn Achilles. The MRI confirmed. This ends his promising season before it begins. This is just from EMRI report.
Just saw the life leave Quincy's eyes.
Sorry, Grant.
Sorry, man. Sorry, bro.
I gotta find the right GIF to put on Twitter for that moment, because that's just
that's rough.
Sad.
That's sad. Like you said, man, with him being so young, so promising, that's
hopefully he can bounce back, because if he's young, hopefully he can heal quicker.
Listen, if you're at 38, you can bounce back from an elbow surgery. You get 22.
They ain't bouncing back.
That's what I'm saying. I think Leon Hall tore his Achilles twice. I think Leon Hall tore his Achilles twice.
Pinpoint accurate throws every time. Okay, we're not talking about catchable balls here, player. We talking about pinpoint accurate throws.
My second take is that Big Ben will get benched by week 6 of the season.
I was going to say that.
So
Leon Hall tore his Achilles twice. Tore his Achilles twice. The first time he came back, he was still pretty good. Second time he came out, he was still serviceable as well. So I think that's good news for Grant Delpit.
Yeah. No, I mean, like the way modern medicine works, look, Adrian Peterson tore his ACL the next year. He ran for 2,000. I mean, you can come back from this stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Where y'all remember WWE that had the guy Farouk just backstage every time something crazy would happen, he'd just be like, damn. This is one of those moments.
It's all good, man. Hey, you guys will get through it. He'll come back. He'll come back majorly in next year, and it'll be like you had another. I'm so used to the Bengals
saying this. Hey, it's like you got 2 extra
first round. Yes,
2 first round picks. There we go.
I've heard that the past 3 seasons. Trust me. Like none of our William Jackson III went down in camp before the season, missed the season. Jonah missed the season. John Ross basically missed the season. Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yep.
Oh,
I think we lost Quincy.
I think we did. Yep.
We were wrapping up anyway. Let's go around. I guess we'll just do our outros here, and then we'll wrap it up. So, Sonny, let people know where they can find your work.
SCG Sport, IG, Facebook, Twitter, obviously in YouTube. I do Tuesdays at 8:30. I do live stream, but when the season starts, that's gonna change because this channel is gonna go to Tuesdays. So we go after the Monday Night Football. So this channel is gonna go through some time changes and day change, but go check us out. Don't forget for this channel, hit that bell. So when we go live, you know we went live.
Ace, what about you? Where can people find your work?
You guys can find me at New Stripe City. You see the banner right here on YouTube. Of course, you can find me here. Stay tuned because we're going to be doing some clips and segments and stuff like that on this channel. So stay tuned for that. We have been listening to you guys in the comments, and we appreciate that feedback. But you can find me there. You can also find me on Twitter at New Stripe City. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
You can find Quincy just by searching Quincy Carrier on YouTube. He has a Browns channel there. Oh, here he is. I'll start that over. Oh, baby.
Now,
Quincy back.
Tony, say my outro for me. I would like to say my outro. I would like that.
Quincy, where can people find your work?
Oh, Tony, you doing me wrong. All right, you can find me on youtube.com/Quincy Carrier or just by putting Quincy Carrier in YouTube search bar. I am going to have collabs with all of these gentlemen coming up when I do my camp check-ins. Ace has already had his. Tony has already had his. I pointed in the wrong direction for both of those guys. I don't understand how camera physics work, but make sure you get there. Also, follow me on Twitter because if you think Tony has hot takes, follow my Twitter and you will love what you see, especially if you are a Browns fan and especially if you aren't a Browns fan. By the way, Chef, don't ever try to troll us with that fake Earl Thomas signed a 1-year, $12 million contract comment. I saw that garbage. Don't try to put that there. You made me check Twitter and disconnect from the internet by accident. So, anyway, so you want to find me? Find me there. Check me out there. I put out content. I've been uploading every day to cover the Browns. So if you like Browns content, find me.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at Steeler Country. You can also find me on Locked On Steelers. I do a weekly hit there on Tuesdays. So check that out. Chris Carter does a great job. It's a daily podcast, but I am on there on Tuesdays. And of course, you can find me here, AFC North Talk. Make sure you guys have subscribed, hit the bell. As Ace said, we are going to be, we have just been getting started this offseason. Now the season itself is going to start. We're going to be ramping up here. We're going to move to Tuesday so we can get Monday Night Football in before we go live. And then we'll be doing more clips here. So I know this is a long form show. We're at an hour and a half right now, but you better find this in more bite-sized chunks coming up. So thank you all for listening and watching, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Peace out, my guys.
Peace.